Hi guys, thanks for tuning into another episode of Nuggets News. Another huge news week. We've seen gold and Bitcoin really in the headlines. We're going to go through all those global financial headlines and then get through all the crypto headlines as well as check the charts. It's been a massive week. We do welcome over 600 new subscribers, so thanks for joining us on this journey. And this week I gave some longer term predictions for where I see the global stock market and economy, some Bitcoin and crypto industry predictions, the Australian housing market, and some more local predictions there with Martin. Next week I'll be doing a detailed 4-year cycle update for the Bitcoin halving, as well as some gold and silver bigger time frame analysis as well. I just wanted to remind you guys that we've got a range of products that we are releasing through our portal now. So our members group, we have over 1,000 traders and investors of all experience levels in that Facebook community. It's working really well. Not everyone likes Facebook, so we are creating a portal on our website. We can get all our monthly research reports, our precious metals reports, our daily recaps for those of you that are too busy, and plenty of other content as well. So that'll be up any day now. Keep an eye out for that. In terms of the bushfires, thanks to everyone that donated. We did raise around $20,000, and I will be sharing some more information about that on Monday. But we've seen a number of other larger initiatives started. So Binance Charity promising $1 million. A lot of the Australian exchanges that I first messaged about doing something when this news broke working together now. So I'll be putting my support behind those drives as well. But thanks to everyone that donated as well. So let's get into the local news, where there's now fears that the fires will affect the local economy, and that is increasing the chances that the RBA cut rates in February. So sitting around a 65% chance at the moment. Obviously, markets love lower rates and talk of QE, so we'll get to that in a second. But this civil unrest and protests is something that is looking like it's going to continue. I think we could actually see even more of this once the fires, it all sort of dies down a little bit, and the initial sort of fallout is what we're seeing now. But 30,000 protesters, I know this is something that really divides people. Just look at the comments, one side or the other. So something that I'm not going to, put my opinions in. I'm not an expert. I'll try and keep it all factual here, but just be aware that this is something that people are going to continue to protest about. In terms of retail sales, we actually saw the best sales in 2 years. So it looks like Australians are getting behind this idea of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Those sales are increasing. Overall, sales haven't been that great. This year, we've seen the cost of the back-to-school goods up 13%. If you haven't watched the whiteboard session I did about inflation and why you're falling behind, we know that reported inflation is around 1%, but basically everything, our cost of living is going up far more than that. And, now I've got kids, I can certainly attest to that. It's just chipping away more and more of your salary, and Australians, particularly those with families, are falling further behind. So this week we did see the launch of that first homeowners scheme, and this is something that got spoken about a lot in the news. We've had a huge demand and applications for this, but just remember the math behind that. When people are saying that this is fantastic, I did share this the other day, just remember how much extra people are going to be paying in interest. And now we've got that talk about possible inflation coming down the track as well. Just something to be mindful of if rates ever go up in future. So the RBA did give us a bit of a snapshot of economic growth. Look, it's not too bad if you believe all these numbers. Yes, the Aussie dollar has certainly benefited us going so low recently. That has started to creep higher, but the economy isn't going that bad. There's a lot of other countries that are going worse than us. So we keep talking about America being pretty good. Australia's going okay at the moment, but obviously we're waiting to see how these bushfires affects things, and if the housing market continues to rebound, wage growth. There's a lot of factors which obviously Martin and I will do our update on next week. So despite all this, the ASX has hit fresh record highs, and this story saying that the outlook has brightened. I'm not so sure about that. To me, it's pretty simple. It's all about monetary policy, and a few weeks ago I tweeted that this was probably the easiest trade of the decade. Now markets are pricing in more rate cuts. Guess what happens? Stock markets go up. So sorry, my previews aren't working today. Twitter has frozen, but you guys get the picture. Well, a lot of people have been saying stocks are going to crash. I've been saying, look, I think it's going to go higher and into a bigger bubble as long as this money printing continues. So over to Taiwan, where we got another pro-independence result. There were fears that there may be another leader elected that was a little bit more comfortable with this idea of cozying up to China again. But the Taiwanese people, looks like they got what they wanted in that landslide victory, keeping them very independent there. Now, Mark Carney has been in the news a lot talking about cryptocurrencies, the US dollar as a reserve currency, and he sees room to double the Bank of England stimulus package. It's a race to the bottom. Who can do more fiscal stimulus? Who can print more money? This is the theme of 2020, and you guys know how much I've spoken about this. And it's because of these sort of slumping sales. So UK retail industry is now having its worst year ever. People are taking a step back. They're trying to pay down debts. I think the next article here, we've got a story about US consumers that have been spending a lot are now unexpectedly paying down credit card debt in November, even as other, student loans and auto loans soar. So around the world, it's what we've seen in Australia. Now it is spreading to these other countries where consumers are very mindful and starting to pay down debt. As well as the manufacturing industry, we've seen the Baltic Dry Index, that shipping index, now plunged to its plunged the most since 2008. A lot of people were front running these tariffs, so getting in their shipments and those transportations of products globally before those tariffs kicks in. So that's actually, in hindsight now, people thought that maybe things were recovering. Well, things have fallen off so sharply after those tariffs, so people were just front running those tariffs being placed. In terms of US consumers, this week we did have a range of new technology on display. And Segway have created this self-balancing stroller now for Americans that are too overweight to walk. So I know I talk a lot about consumerism and, people have just become a cog in the machine and all you are to these big corporations is a source of profit. And I still think that people aren't aware. 75% of Americans overweight or obese. At one stage a couple of years ago, Australia actually leapfrogged the US as the most overweight nation in the world. So it is our diets, our lifestyles these days. You then end up spending a lot of money on medication. You become profit for Big Pharma. Then the government picks up the bill. But all this is going to have side effects further down the line. So, don't fall victim to this consumerism, guys. Try and live a healthy, balanced lifestyle. Now, US, Big Brother is now collecting DNA at the border for entry. So we hear about this surveillance. We know that the banking system and these central bank currencies want to monitor what we're doing with our payments. And now collecting DNA. At what stage do people just push back and say, what on earth? I'm not giving you my DNA. Who's going to keep this? Who has the data? The government. It is just nuts that this thing is happening slowly and now picking up speed. And 90% of people are just completely oblivious to what's happening around them. So, look, only a matter of time until we get this in Australia. The biggest news this week was all about the US and Iran and those tensions and who was going to retaliate. We did see a passenger jet shot down. We heard that it was, just a technical fault and this was an accident. And then in a stunning reversal, Iran had to admit once we start to get this footage coming out that they did accidentally shoot down this passenger jet. So not great news. Look, people are tense. These things are possibly going to happen in the future, hovering the finger over the red button, whoever's going to press these missiles. And we've heard about these false flags and near misses in the past. It's just not good when we have these tensions and threats of war. And obviously Iran has been swept by protests, demanding the resignation over those responsible and death to the liars, because the media pushed that this was not their fault right up to the last minute where there was too much evidence that they could no longer deny it. The next story here, we've got Trump threatening to cut off Baghdad's access to the Fed. So a lot of these other countries and banks have a deposit account at the US Federal Reserve. Obviously, the US dollar is now being used as a weapon. If you weren't already aware, this has been happening for years. Again, politicizing money. We need to separate money and state. Every week, there's more and more of these headlines why people are going to be turning against the US dollar. Now, speaking of which, Janet Yellen has come out and warned her colleagues to limit the comments around the US dollar. So it's one of their mandates about stability, and yet she doesn't want them talking about it. Remember, jawboning and talking is one of the weapons that the Fed actually uses. So interesting that we've got these ex-governors, Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke, coming out and saying things. We've seen in the past Alan Greenspan talking about buying gold. Bernanke here is saying that the Fed shouldn't rule out using negative interest rates. Once again, in Australia, the RBA have said they're not going to go there. I just don't know what planet they think they're on. They're going to do exactly what every other central bank does. They're nothing special about Australia or our economy. CNBC, some mainstream coverage here. Jim Cramer, endless buying for gold could signal a shift to real fear in the stock market. So gold's had a tremendous run. I've spoken about this a lot. We've had a monster run up over to $1,600 this week. Stocks rebounded once we got the news that World War III was not imminent. We saw gold also really retrace a lot of that move. Bitcoin held up initially, and this was where we looked for our relationships and our pairs trades, correlations, and Bitcoin did eventually correct back a little bit more. But it's great to be able to trade these things and be mindful of how these different indexes work. Obviously, I'm super bullish on gold long term, but again, I think we could be having a little bit more of a correction after that monster move over $1,600 this week. This was a fantastic tweet. I might just refresh this so we can open it up from the Crypto Sniper. And Peter Schiff is the ultimate contraindicator. So obviously he likes to talk down Bitcoin at any point. There's actually a video that came out even earlier than this. So back in 2011, Peter Schiff was telling people, whatever you do, buy gold, don't buy Bitcoin. Now, obviously, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset. He's been dead wrong for 10 years. I do like gold, but Peter Schiff apparently has put out the counter indicator again, talking about Bitcoin going down to $1,000. Now, I want to remind you guys that we have extended this deal. It's been extremely popular. eToro, being able to trade ETFs, gold, commodities, stock indices, bond markets. I know you guys are loving it. We've had hundreds of people sign up now. You do get that $100 Bitcoin from us once you make a deposit and make a couple of trades. And eToro will also give you that 10% deposit credit once you qualify for that. And if you've got any questions, that's all up on our website, but we are extending that offer. You can use eToro. You can use any provider and broker with your self-managed super fund. So thanks again to our other sponsor, New Brighton Capital. This should be everyone's goal, I think, to build up their wealth and their education and their knowledge to the point where they can manage their wealth through for their own retirement. So take advantage of that free consultation. If you can do that self-managed super fund, they love helping you guys get access to crypto and gold and silver, as well as other products through their services there. All right, so into the crypto news, where Kik is once again in this tussle with the SEC over their token sale. Now, the SEC have been super busy this week. They're looking to apparently loosen those standards around who qualifies as accredited investors, and hopefully this does drop that barrier to entry, and the average man on the street will get exposure to these things that only the rich have been privy to in the past. But basically, the SEC have got their hands full. There's a lot of scams out there, but even projects like Telegram, I couldn't believe this when we heard during the week that Telegram are now saying, and whether or not this is just jawboning to try and keep regulators happy, that the token is nothing to do with their efforts. They aren't going to drive development, the price. But publicly saying that they're not going to develop the project, that they're hoping that the community will, they want to open source it. What on earth have they been doing with $1.7 billion for the past 2 years? They're not even integrating Telegram token into Telegram, the app, with all the users. So let me know if you invested. Is this not what you're expecting? There's a lot of other projects with massive treasuries that have done a few, acquisitions, a bit of marketing, but at the end of the day, it's about development. Do you have users? Do you have developers? Do you have apps that have a product fit? And people are starting to find out the hard way that all these, projects with better technology aren't winning at the end of the day. Tether and Bitfinex are back in the news again. So originally this suit did get dropped, but now it has been revised. When is this going to finish? We saw more Tether reportedly being printed this week. That turned out just to be actually Tether that's been minted on the Tron blockchain. We've also seen Tether move to the Liquid sidechain, which is a second layer to the Bitcoin network, receiving $15 million in funding to make that private as well. So lots happening there. Tether is still that number one stablecoin of choice for most people and exchanges. In terms of the US and regulators, Spencer Dinwiddie, has launched his contract as an STO. So this is, I guess, a bit of a landmark case. His $34 million contract, he does tokenize this, and investors can buy it off him up front. So he gets that money up front. Really interesting. This is what I wanted to see last year, the tokenizing and fractional ownership of anything, really. You can now get that happening through STOs on the Ethereum blockchain or any of these other security token platforms. Some sad news this week that we did see a Korean YouTuber assaulted at his own home, and threats to his staff from investors. Now, I don't know this guy personally. I don't really know the backstory, but this is one of those risks that you take, I guess, when you put yourself out there, and it's not nice to think that this can happen to people. Obviously, we've got people that troll us and give us a hard time, but when it actually comes to, physical violence and whatnot, guys, we shouldn't be tolerating this at all. I hope that we do see some justice there. And just remember, people get things wrong. We're never going to be right 100% of the time. Blaming people, for things that they have got wrong or that you've lost money over. That's why people say do your own research, have multiple sources for your education and whatnot. So I do feel a bit sorry for him there. Now, Elon Musk did get social media into a bit of a frenzy with this tweet. He came out and spoke about Dogecoin, and he did delete that tweet. He also said that Bitcoin is not his safe word. A little bit cryptic there. But I just think in this next wave, what we're going to see in this next crypto bubble is, celebrities, influencers, sports stars. Everyone's going to be talking about crypto. And even the larger YouTubers, someone like PewDiePie with millions of subscribers, now talking about Tron and BitTorrent. So in the next wave, we have so many on-ramps, and now we have millions instead of thousands of users that are getting told about cryptocurrency by everyone around them. And I do think that will result in a bigger bubble. So have a think about what your plan is for that. The RBA, again, disappointing me with this statement, saying that they're going to block Facebook's Libra in Australia, but also saying that they just don't really see the need for stablecoins. And this just couldn't be further from the truth. Every other central bank is taking stablecoins seriously. So yes, Zuckerberg is sort of changing his tune now, and he's taking a bit of a back step, and he's talking about digital commerce and how important that is. In his recent statement, he didn't even mention Libra. But look at these other central banks. Christine Lagarde saying that they want to develop a digital currency, central bank digital currencies. I spoke about that white paper they put out. We know that there's these new anti-money laundering laws coming in, so that is going to affect a lot of things in Europe. But at the moment, it sounds like they want to issue their own stablecoin. These regulations are going to be bad news for a lot of European exchanges. So once again, you're going to lose the money and the innovation if you want to crack down and do all these extra laws. So Deribit, they're a fantastic options and trading platform. They are heading over to Panama and leaving the Netherlands there because of these regulations. China apparently is very close to launching their central bank digital currency. They've also issued these new laws around cryptography and what the different apps are allowed to do in terms of encryption in China. So once again, similar to Australia, cracking down on encryption itself, which is pretty crazy. Over to Thailand, where we have seen a Thai bank launch this app for instant cross-border payments. It is powered by Ripple, but once again, we haven't really got any talk about the XRP token itself. And that's obviously the issue that I've had. Until we see large volumes and banks using the XRP token, it's this technology which banks are experimenting with. We're not seeing large volumes or use of the token itself. South Korea, presidential committee coming out and saying that they want to bring mainstream adoption and crypto into that world of finance. We saw a huge premium in the bull market over in Korea, and they've pushed back initially, like a lot of countries, and now it looks like they want to welcome crypto with open arms into the mainstream and into finance. Like I mentioned before, this Coinbase Pro app is now available on Android, 50 trading pairs. Just think about that next wave when people have got all this at their fingertips, more than 100 countries around the world. Binance are rapidly expanding. All these large exchanges have got plenty of money. They want to expand and get users from every country. A little update here from IOTA. This is one where they have to remove that coordinator, and we've got some more updates about the research and what's going on there. So head over to their Medium and check out that latest blog post. But this is one that's been quietly accumulating partnerships and still heading in the right direction. Nervous Network will hand out $30 million to encourage third-party development. So as I touched on before, these projects with massive treasuries, there's no point having that money in the bank if you don't have people building. So I like seeing projects like this actually handing out money. We've seen Ethereum get really busy lately with Gitcoin and these grants. So it's so competitive, this space, about who is going to capture the developers and the apps. Once you get those network effects, it's hard to bring back those market leaders. An interesting piece out from Harvard Research about this as well, and the issues that a lot of these proof of stake chains are going to face. So the trade-off between security, speed and decentralization. A lot of these projects are proof of stake. They're promising yields that attract investors, but I think this tweet sums it up nicely here. There's no point staking these assets and getting a 5% annual yield if the token itself is down 95%. I saw a lot of beginners make this mistake. They were hearing about these proof of stake coins that were paying out huge rewards, or even the scams themselves that are promising these monthly rewards. That is what attracts people to these riches. But in the same vein, there's no point buying these bonds with a negative yield just because you think a central bank is going to come along and print some money and buy it off you for more. So, a few parallels there between the crypto markets and the world of finance. The Plasma Group have halted their research. They did do a lot to help Ethereum in the past 12 months, and they are shutting down their doors, but they're saying that, hey, they have reached maturity. That was the area that needed more research at the time, helping projects like Amiseago that are using Plasma, and they've now got to a point that they're happy with. So the Amiseago team put out another fantastic update. Head over to their blog as well if you want to read more about that. But still a project that I do have high hopes for, as all these scaling techniques are going to become important for Ethereum in 2020 if we can pull this off. Now, DeFi loans have come to Aave and Chainlink. There's all this talk now about under-collateralized loans and no collateralized loans. So obviously having over-collateralized loans doesn't really help the majority of people. If we want this to catch on, we need these under-collateralized loans. So being able to get them in a flash through all these different projects and partners, it really is fantastic. Chainlink continue to impress. One that I want to do a full fundamental analysis on for you guys as well. The next thing I wanted to mention was about the DAI savings rate, all these different DeFi sectors. We've seen synthetics being the best performing asset this year. DeFi is going to continue to grow, and you can have a look at the different areas of open finance that are capturing that value. But I think more money is going to flow there. These under-secured loans, this is a great piece on DeFiPrime.com if you want to check it out. But this space is where I want to have exposure next year. We've just done a write-up for our members about a project that is my top pick for 2020 that is going to be helping basically every project in the DeFi space. And members, check out the write-up I did on that today for you guys. And I might put something up publicly about that in a few weeks, but I definitely think that's the best project, and I'm adding that one to my portfolio. So MakerDAO has been pitched at CES. So CES is the Consumer Electronics Show. I did mention that before with this new segues, but this is what we need. We need to get DeFi out there to the masses, and sometimes we forget that we do live in our little crypto bubble. So great to see that Maker did have a spot there at the Consumer Electronics Show. Over 3 million ETH now locked in DeFi, continues to grow. I've sort of beaten that drum to death, guys, but make sure you know how to use DeFi and get a loan. And as I said, a number of updates with our premium research reports. We've covered this. We've covered the best projects for you guys in general. And we did that deep dive into the next one that is my favorite today. So members, do check that out. Final pieces of news here about Ethereum. We've got the co-founders saying that Ethereum 2.0 will come in 2020. We've heard that some of the specs are now frozen. It's just about getting this out into the real world and getting those test nets up and running. So very, very exciting. And I'm hoping that we can stake our Ethereum as soon as this year. The final piece of news we got was about Craig Wright again. We saw Bitcoin Satoshi Vision have a huge jump, 60% or so, when we got this news that there's now a third Tulip Trust, and Craig has bought himself some more time. I'm not sure what is going on here, what the judge is thinking and whatnot, but look, this did have a bit of a pump and then a bit of a dump, and we are actually really lucky that we have so many more trading options these days. Remember in 2017, you couldn't really short a lot of alts, or if you did, they only had Bitcoin pairs. That's why I love FTX. I've got the shirt on. They're sponsoring this week's technical analysis, and we're going to be doing a lot of work with them because of these great products that they offer. And yesterday, I posted in our group about these BSV, these projects that have these massive pumps and then these massive dumps. And sure enough, we have these falls of 10 or 20%, and we are so lucky that we can short these. In the stock market, people don't get a 10% move in a year sometimes on stocks or bonds or currencies, yet we're very lucky that we can jump on, we can use margin. These things go up, they often come down. We spoke about it with Matic, and I know plenty of you made a lot of money shorting BSV yesterday as it did fall back down to earth. In terms of Bitcoin, look, we had this move absolutely play out perfectly from a few weeks ago around Christmas when we posted. We thought we were going to get up here to 8,300. We've got there nicely this week on the lower time frame, so we're looking for a little bit of a move back up here to this golden pocket. And it's been a great trading period. And if you've been disciplined and followed our rules and our posts closely, I know plenty of you are enjoying what is happening at the moment and the possibility that we finally put in a bottom. So if we have a look at the charts, people have been watching this falling wedge or a falling channel. Either way, we have broken out of it if you're calling it a wedge. We were looking for this move up on the 6th of January, and once again, our cycle brackets are helping us out. We've now pinned the top of that channel. It's got a few touch points, and we've had a little bit of a pullback. So volume is picking up, which is what we want to see if we're going to have a break. On this daily candle, if we can push higher, this is going to finish off the week nice and strong and in the green. Let's get that back on auto. In terms of our Bollinger Bands, we know that we fell outside there, and we've now touched that midpoint right at this channel. So if we can finish this week, we've got 16 hours or so left before this candle finishes. If we can finish up here, break above that channel on increasing volume to get out of this falling pattern, this is going to be fantastic news. Now, obviously, the more bearish result and possibility is that we roll over again and we head back down lower into this channel. But I think very exciting 12 hours coming up after this sort of Adam and Eve pattern, this fractal. And I really do hope for everyone's sake, guys, that we can break out of this pattern. Wouldn't it be great if we do enter that bull market? In terms of where to watch, we know that Litecoin tends to lead. I've been talking about Litecoin a lot. XRP had a bit of a pump as well this week. Bitcoin ABC, Bitcoin Cash having a nice week. So these large cap coins, they tend to lead. This is where the traders like to play around. Ethereum as well. I hope it can carve its own path. It has broken its longer term downtrend, come back and retested that. So guys, we all are hoping for that bull market to return. That's it for this week's news. If you want more information on anything we do, if you want to read those premium reports, if you want to find the coin that's my top pick for 2020, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au and become a member. Otherwise, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.